Hi, everyone. Welcome. This evening is the start of what I'm going to say is a new playlist series for me and to bring to you all because I love doing the interviews and want to keep doing them. And I have a very special guest tonight, a relatively new YouTuber who's doing some amazing stuff. And what we're starting to do now is a new series. As I said, it's about starting my YouTube journey, and this allows me to bring all kinds of interesting guests that are highly skilled and are starting in their YouTube journey, and they're going to share their why and their pathway and their vision and some of their challenges and victories. So I'm really excited to share with you tonight a very special guest, and his name is Les El Blatino. Hey Les, how are you? And welcome.
Hey, what's up, Gord? Thanks for having me, man.
It's great to have you here, and I'm really excited. And I want to give everyone first a little bit of background as to how we met and how we're here today. And what I want to share with people is that first, Les and I are both a member of Roberto Blake's awesome creator community, and in there, there's monthly mastermind calls, and we got to meet each other through one of those calls and hear people talk about their stories and different things. And I was very intrigued because I heard about Roberto talk about Les and some of his filmmaking skills, and then I went to his channel and saw all this incredibly cool green screen stuff that just kind of blew my mind. And I said, "Wow, I'd love to talk with Les and learn some stuff from him and see what's his story and what's his magic." And I got so excited. I approached him to do a collab, and he was quite happy to do so. So, I'd like to let everyone know that Les is a writer, director, a content creator, and a filmmaker. He's got it all packed in. And Les, welcome. And I'd love to hear you share a little more about your backstory, how you came from where you were to be here on YouTube now.
It's been a pretty long journey, and I'm sure it'll continue to be a pretty long journey. Um, the first thing I can say is that I used to be in a dance company, and we used to travel all over the world doing shows. And you always need a book for the plane ride. And on one of our trips, the book that I picked out at the bookstore was Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew. And it got me very, very interested in filmmaking, especially the way he described it. He described it as a sport, which, I had done gymnastics growing up and diving. And so um, working hard. I understood how sports work, the return you get when you put in the work. And the way he described it was, he said, listen, pick up anything that you can record moving images with, and anything that you can edit those moving images with, and just make films. Just make tons and tons and tons of film. So I bought myself a crappy little, this is like even before mini DV. This is like the days of just like VHS, like a huge VHS camera.
So how long have
And
you been doing that, making films and being creative like that?
I would say probably about 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I edited between the camera and between a VCR, and those were my earliest movies.
Oh,
And
wow.
so yeah, so even before like Final Cut Pro, Camtasia, Premiere, even before any of those programs came out, you're editing between VCRs. That's how we did it back then.
Oh, wow. That is early stage. Um, so, so how did you get from there? I mean, you went through, you're in a career in filmmaking, and now you've shifted to focus in the world of YouTube. Can you sort of fill us in how you get there from like what you were doing and what sort of changed in your life to get you so inspired to do this?
When I have to just say this first, like all my life, I've been a pretty unfocused person, a hard worker.
Mm.
and somebody who achieves things very, very quickly, but not someone who, uh, you basically like, I'm the hare, like very fast, and I get to the finish line, I'm about to cross it, and then somebody else beats me, or I beat myself, like I don't even cross the finish line. So I say that because, when I started making films, I got to a point where I was doing pretty well. Like I was a semifinalist for the Sundance Screenwriters Lab.
Mm.
I had won a few film contests, and because of that, I had some mentors, like screenwriters, Hollywood screenwriters as mentors and things like that. And I think, it just, I came to a point where you always come to a point where you just have to push a little bit more, and you're gonna cross it, And I always get to that point, and I don't cross. I develop an interest in something else. The interest I developed was music. So all of a sudden, when I'm like being mentored by a Hollywood screenwriter, and almost at the point of becoming a somebody who's at the Sundance Screenwriters Lab, I decide I'm going to become a musician. Did I know anything about music? No, nothing at all. So, so just distractions that you know kind of deviate me from whatever the end of the road is, if there is like some kind of end of the road. Anyways, 2 years ago, my daughter was born,
Mhm.
and I decided, like this music thing is it's just frivolous. I'm not making any money at it. Um, I had been making my money as a filmmaker.
Mhm.
Like for many, 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 many years, I was making my money as a freelance videographer. So even though I was a musician and putting all my energy into a band,
Yeah.
I still had my fingers into filmmaking because I was making my living that way.
So you did a lot of
So
corporate video, or what kind of video did you do for?
I did like corporate video. I would document dance and theater, any kind of video work that I could get, I would do.
Mhm.
So my daughter was born, and I took a look at my life, and I said, you know what? I can't do this band thing, have a kid and be a freelance videographer. Like something had to go, and the thing that went was the music. So as soon as I did that, I was able to double my freelance filmmaking business. And that went okay for a couple of years, until I realized, man, like the work that I'm doing is not the work that this is not the reason I became a filmmaker. I became a filmmaker to tell stories, to make my own movies, and I'm not doing that. I'm making a living, but I'm not doing the filmmaking that I thought was going to be in front of me. So two things happened in my life that have changed my life essentially. One of them is the birth of my daughter, and the other one is moving from Philadelphia to North Carolina. Now, what happened moving to North Carolina? Um, Somebody's saying that somebody asked where I'm from.
Oh,
Puerto
cool.
Rico, Puerto Rico,
There we go. That,
born and raised.
that's cool. I should have asked that. Okay, so Les, you gave us a good idea of how things were going in terms of getting you. You were just about to tell us. So now you're a filmmaker. You weren't really getting inspired by doing the corporate work. You moved to North Carolina, and actually, I think Naomi's from North Carolina, and and and
North Shakalaka.
and you got
That's what they say.
you got inspired to bring the world to YouTube. So that seems to me, well, first tell us what inspired you to now want to go onto YouTube and get dive into the filmmaking. So you have a special project, so maybe you can start there and tell us how it all began.
You know what's funny? Actually, let me rewind real quick.
Yeah.
I was actually, when I was in Philly, I was actually talking to a friend and saying, "Man, like I wish I have so much stuff that I want to make and show people, and I wish that I could just make short things and just put them out there."
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Rather than
and this
get into a big long project.
and this is while YouTube is alive. So the thought didn't even cross my mind to like, oh, I could be doing that on YouTube, because like the background that I came from, it's not like, it wasn't one where like YouTube is the thing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like film festivals are the thing. And you know, and film screenings are the thing. Not throwing your film up on YouTube. Like basically people are like, hey, you throw your film up on YouTube, you might as well forget about submitting it to film festivals. Like some of these film festivals, they want exclusivity to show your film. So the thought of YouTube didn't really cross my mind, even though I had this need to make content and have people see it, and not like something that took me a month or 2 months to make, but content that I could do in a couple of days,
Hmm.
content that I could pump out week after week. So what happened when I moved to North Carolina is that uh, I was at a point where I was like, okay, now I have to start looking for clients, so for video clients. And I was like, is that really what I want to do? Like, I want to make a film. I want to make creative stuff. And that's really when I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try YouTube and see what happens. And I remember we were in between homes, right? So
Right.
I had rented this storage facility, and I decided, you know, I got this space. I might as well do something with it. So I put up my green screen,
Yeah.
and I was there one night. I went there to move some stuff, and the green screen was already up, and I had my camera equipment with me. This must have been like 11:30 at night. And I was like, I should make something. So I sat down, I wrote a quick little scene together. I had, by chance, I had this scale model 64 Mustang convertible. And I
Right.
was like, you know what? Let me do something with this. And I made this short little scene about, you know, driving in the desert and hitting an object that turned out to be a UFO or like an alien or something.
Right.
And it turned out pretty fun. Like, you know, since I made the scene very quickly, I turned it black and white in order to hide the mistakes. And I'm big into like 1950s Hollywood films and B movies and things like that. So
Hmm.
it had that feeling, and it got me really excited. And I was like, you know what? I think I could do this regularly. I think I can make this kind of content regularly and put it out there. And after that, like I was off to the races.
Hmm. So you have like a studio set up there, and I remember when I started to look at some of your clips, what I found, what really like got me stoked to want to talk to you and learn, is that you did this whole thing doing different physical things, different lighting positions, playing around with the green screen and the lighting. Like there was so much involved to me as a person who just uses green screen to like substitute something behind me or doing something more simplistic, right?
Hmm.
So how you know, had you had a ton of experience doing green screen stuff before, or like, you know, what was that, or was that the genesis of something bigger that you were like, you know, after you did that scene, now all of a sudden you're like really fired up?
I had some experience. You know, when I had my band, I did all the music videos for my band, and half of the videos were, you know, green screen. They were made in front of a green screen, and at the time, I didn't. You know, I just needed to make a music video. I wasn't thinking like, oh, this is an interesting way to make films or to continue to make, you know, moving imagery.
Hmm.
Um, so it sort of kind of just came back on that night when I decided to make something right in that at the spot on the spot. Um, something clicked that maybe had been just hanging out, just waiting to come out completely. And now that it has, I'm so into it. I mean, I had dabbled with CGI stuff, and you know, unless you're Game of Thrones,
Hmm.
unless you're Industrial Light and Magic, you know, Star Wars, or unless you're Lord of the Rings, you know, CGI is very difficult to do properly. and
Hmm.
to do it well. And so that's number one. Number two, a lot of my favorite films, the special effects are not CGI.
Yeah.
You know, those special effects are, you know, stop motion, like Sinbad, like the Sinbad movies from back
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
day. They're composites, you know, things shot. I don't even know if at the time they were shooting in front of green screen. I think they would just shoot in front of black
Right.
or
Right.
things like that. So those were the kind of special effects that got me excited. Miniatures, a lot of the,
Yeah.
you know, the original Star Wars, a lot of that stuff was miniatures.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, it's like that excited me. And it also, it is something physical that you're filming.
Yeah.
So it, to me, to my eye, even, you know, even though it's a movie, that's what
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock used to say. It was like, you know, whenever like an actor was giving him problems, he would be like, just don't worry about it. We're just making a movie. You know, he didn't, even though he was like the consummate artist, he didn't take it that seriously,
Yeah.
apparently. Anyways, it's a movie, so it's not meant to be real, but
Right.
it's meant to be artistic. And I'm not saying that CGI is not art,
Right.
but there's just something about it that just, for me personally, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to do something, but I like, you know, creating magic. I
Yeah.
like, you know, sets and just like what filmmaking to me is just like creating magic and creating a
Yeah.
world. And by doing it in this manner, you know, shooting in front of green screen, using miniatures and stock footage, minimal stock footage, because a lot of it is, you know, the subject, the actors, and then the miniatures to create most of the world. And then you have your background, and that would be the stock footage. But that's the way I like to work versus like
Yeah.
throwing CGI up on the
Well,
screen.
well, I mean, I remember, well, first, before I forget, this is a great time. Like Naomi has already nicely shared your channel link in there. Why don't you pop in a couple of links to a couple of the videos and just sort of tell us, like, one of the ones that I had so much fun with was your one you did, it was called Baby Godzilla, which you took your daughter and you just did, like, I just couldn't stop laughing when I saw that, and I thought, like, wow, like, how creative is this? I mean, I'd love to learn to see what's involved to do something like that. And then when I started to look at your channel, I saw you actually educate us on how to do things. And recently, you also did a video where you're like sitting at a table and there's different objects and things around, right? And that's actually all miniaturization, right? And it looks like the stuff's there, in real life in front of us. And you know, you actually did stuff to like miniaturize, well, to make yourself fit into a miniaturized set of things. And I mean, I just found it so fascinating, and there's so much to learn for people that want to explore the creativity of what you're doing. And you share images of different like states of progress and this is getting to like how you teach, which is very, very cool. How you manage, like, this is where I say, like, you're even like a filmmaker and how you package the stuff up to show us, right? It's like, oh my God, he's got these four things going on the screen, and then there's the actual scene, and it's like, and yeah, it's not overwhelming me, and it all just flows, and I go like, how did he pull that off? Like, so like you once told me, you said like that skill is like the ability to tell a story, and like people are immersed in it, and it's fluid, right?
You know, one of the things I learned from that Robert Rodriguez book that got me into filmmaking, Rebel Without a Crew, um, he said there were a lot of mistakes in his film, but that if he was doing his job correctly, you would not notice them. You know, you would not notice them. And I, I don't know if I'm 100% going to do this, but I have scenes in my movie where like I got this facial hair,
Yeah.
and then the next scene there's no facial hair at all. I'm like clean shaven.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, how much? I'm gonna see how much I can get away with and not get away with. Like if you can immerse somebody into your world
Right.
and your story so much that they're not noticing shaven versus uh, beard, like you're doing your job correctly. You know, have you ever just lost yourself in a movie?
Yeah, I do. And some of those details you don't even sense because you're just in the whole flow of like what's coming next and how it's unfolding. I think that's very, very cool. And so
Exactly.
so what leap I'm asking, is it like a leap of faith? Like did you feel that um, first I'm going to ask a question from a director standpoint.
Uh-huh.
Where are you looking? Because I don't think like there's a different camera from where you're looking. What I'm seeing is a little bit to your should be to your left where your camera eye is.
Uh-huh.
There. Now you're looking
Well,
at the camera.
because now I'm looking at the green eye,
At the
at the
green eye.
at the green eye, the
Okay.
apple green eye. Should I
Yeah,
look the
that's because that's where we are.
Okay. Okay. So when I'm talking, I will talk to
Yeah, that's
you.
cool. I mean, it's just me being me. I wanna be fully in the conversation. So
No, I understand. I
yeah.
understand. See,
So
I was looking at you on my screen this whole time, and you're not the green eye. Let's just say that you're not the green
okay, that's true.
eye.
So if I'm a filmmaker and I have your skill and you have done things to submit to festivals and stuff like that, did you feel like, oh my God, like what are they gonna think of me coming down into the format of YouTube to do my thing? And like does the critical eye of like your peers that you may have worked with or I don't want to say competed with or at the level that you were doing some of that creative work before did that factor in? Did you think twice, or like, nope, I know I wanted to create my movie, and I'm gung ho because I know in my heart that's where I want to be.
You know, I'm actually still going through this.
Mm,
Um, I actually have a couple friends that have now made um, a few independent films that are actually in theaters or were in theaters. People like doing it; they're doing it for real.
yeah,
And so, I watch them, and I'm like, man, I'm like making this little thing on YouTube. Like, I don't know how to feel about it. There's a part of me that is telling me like, keep doing what you're doing. There's something in my gut that's telling me, keep doing what you're doing. But you're always gonna have the other part that's saying like, no, you got to do it the way they're doing it. So I'm gonna follow my gut, and I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast doing this on YouTube. I mean, when you can get uh, even like three people to watch what you're doing and comment and message you, like that's people who are taking time out of their lives to
yeah,
watch something that you're making.
yeah,
And the most important currency in the world is time.
yeah,
That is the most important currency in the world. You're not going to get that back. There's no way to get that back. So the biggest compliment you can get is for one, two, three people. Like it doesn't have to be millions of people. If people are into what you're doing and watching what you're doing, that's a really great reward in my honest opinion.
yeah. I totally agree, and I think that's always a tough thing is finding like your own compass and your own inspiration and not be swayed by what other people are doing because when you sit down to create and spend all of that time immersed in it, you know if it's like just getting you super excited, then you know that it's the right thing for you to do. So,
Hmm.
and along those lines, like I know when we talked a couple of months back, you actually decided that you wanted to teach kids on how to use green screen and that what kind of fun that they could have. So can you tell us a bit about that? Because I see like, wow, Les can do like all of these cool classes to teach filmmaking to younger people, and I love the thing that you said with green screen and some of these other things. You look at like you can literally create any world that you want. And when I think about combining miniaturization and B-roll and substituting stuff like you're it's a matter of the time, patience, imagination, because I've seen some of the things you do, and in some of your videos you can see you have like a complete highway road constructed on the ground, and it's a scene, and you have things like scorpions chasing, and all kinds of, like, interesting stuff, and you're really deep down into the art of the miniaturization and how to execute this and produce it to have a degree of realism in film. So and you want to pass that into kids too, to inspire them, right?
Let me tell you something. All right. Many years ago, I I did I I did that for like 3 or 4 summers. Um, I used to work for the Department of Labor in Philadelphia, and they had these places called the Youth Opportunity Centers,
Oh yeah.
and I would teach filmmaking to kids every summer. And but we were making, the kids were not excited about what we were making, because they made them go out to film um, other projects that were going on in the city of other kids doing something similar to them. But for example, instead of filmmaking, they were
Hmm.
being taught gardening, they were being taught something else. So essentially, like documentaries. And the kids were just not excited about doing it, and they would be bored, and but they're still learning some of the filmmaking techniques and skills. And now that I'm doing this green screen, so I feel like two things have happened. One,
Hmm.
phones, technology. Like all those kids now, they have smartphones. The majority of them have smartphones, and a lot of these smartphones, they can shoot 4K video. Okay, so they have what they need. Okay.
Right.
um, the other thing is, this is a way for them to be able to let their imaginations run wild. They don't have to go and raise money to have an explosion or have all these like crazy scenes that I know that they have in them that they want to put themselves in. They want to be
Yeah.
superheroes, and they want to be heroes in these movies, and I'm not knocking, the documentaries about other projects, the documentaries about their personal lives. Those things are important too. But
Yeah.
man, like they want to be heroes in their own stories, not just like this is how terrible my life is, or this is like the hardship I'm going through. Like maybe they want to tell that story, but they want to tell that story as a superhero. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
I feel like using these techniques, I wanna introduce these techniques for them, because they can just be at home in their living room making a movie that feels like Armageddon, or that feels like Transformers, or that feels like one of these comic book movies, or that can be anything. It could be like a small little horror film, like anything at all.
Anything their
Anything
imagination can take
anything
them.
their imagination will take them, and they have all the tools. They have their phones. They can get like green screen cardboard that's
Yeah.
69 cents at the dollar store.
Yeah.
You buy a couple of them, or you can just get them somewhere, tape them up to a wall. You got your green screen. You don't need a professional green screen. You just need something that you can key out.
Yeah.
So that your phone, the cardboard, you don't even need lighting per se. Like nowadays, you can do pretty well with whatever. So long as some light falls on the green screen,
Yeah.
you'll be able to key it out. And then, you know, toys or whatever you want to use for your movie,
Yeah.
and just like storytelling techniques, ingenuity, and go out there and make an awesome movie. Like
So,
that's the same thing for me too. Like the movie that I'm making, like if it wasn't because of these techniques, I would not be able to make this movie. Number one, I have no way to get to the desert. Like I have no
yeah,
budget for
yeah.
that. I have no budget for like like old classic cars. I
Dropping
have
them
no
off a cliff.
dropping
And
them
how
off a
many
cliff.
lives do you have to fall off the cliff?
Exactly. So this gives me an opportunity to, in my opinion, to do something a bit bigger than like the normal independent filmmaker who's like, okay, I have my friend, his dad owns a store. I have my house, and there's a construction site down there. I'm gonna write a script, base it on those three locations, and that's it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I want to think bigger than that.
Yeah. You're
By
very creatively constrained.
I want to think bigger by going smaller. I'm gonna trademark that.
That's pretty cool. I kind of like that. So would you say from what you're saying that you know the adage like the art is in the edit, and I've heard you talk about it as storytelling, right? I mean, people like Casey Neistat often refer to the art is in the edit. He just loves immersing himself in creating a story. You know, of
Mhm.
course, but it's like how he puts it all together, and so you know, I've heard you say that the storytelling part sort of transcends, you know, other things that can, I'll say, go wrong. Can you give us a sense of how important that is over certain other things? Like, can you weigh it against other things? Why it's so important, and translate that into like as a YouTuber. That's why I'm so excited when I watch your thing because I find you very entertaining, very charismatic. You have a lot of like cool things you're teaching me, and I'm going like, wow, like less is the whole package. I just watched this video, and not only did I have fun, I learned something, and I want more. That's how I feel after I watch your stuff. So, how do you
Yeah.
see that package come together?
Hmm. Honestly, Gord, I don't know. Like I said earlier, like I'm figuring this out as I go along.
Hmm.
I'm just figuring this out as I go along. But I do know, there's a friend of mine out in LA. He's a screenwriter, and a lot of times, if you want to say something, and by you know what I mean by saying something,
Yeah,
you forget that just because you're saying something doesn't mean that people are going to watch, right?
right.
So he always says, make sure it's entertaining. Like, go for the entertainment first,
Yeah,
and then say something, you know? And so I try and do the same thing. I try and, before anything, entertain with the video. I want you
yeah.
to enjoy it, pay attention, have a good time. And hopefully, if that is happening, then you're also learning something at the same time.
Right.
So that's how I approach that.
And I think that's very powerful because I get that right away. Like when you start out and you do some of your funny, I don't want to call them gags or whatever, but just the way you like play with us.
Hmm.
And I go, you know, I'm getting warmed up and I'm having a little fun, right? And then you
Hmm.
manage to teach me something at the same time. That's why I feel like it's like the whole package. And I go like, man, how can I do that? You're doing how to, I'm doing how to too, but I've got this like screen. And I've seen different people do things like they'll do a split camera and they'll like take a break from the tutorial and turn over and talk to you from the side and the camera's there. But I'm saying like, you know, I'd love to learn from you in time because, you know, we've already talked about ideas for collabs. Like that would be a super cool thing. Like what are ideas to spruce up, you know, how to screencasts to make them a little more entertaining and appealing rather than, you know, it's Gord going through a long lesson. Yeah, it's cool what he's showing us, and I'm watching through because I'm learning something. But man, I'd love to be able to add a little more entertainment value. So I'm just sharing that with you in time. I'll be bugging you about that.
Well, I also feel like if I'm not having a good time, nobody else is gonna have a good time.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like, if
yeah,
I'm not having a good time making the video, how can I expect other people to have a good time? It's not really fair. It's not fair. It's not
yeah,
fair
yeah.
to the viewer.
Well, I have a
So
good time when I'm making the videos and I'm passionate, so I guess that sort of covers it, but it's not quite pure entertainment value.
you just gotta do your thing.
Yeah.
Plus, and also, so I also took acting lessons for a very long time.
Ah,
Um,
there we go. There's some of the secret sauce. Because I said I like Les. You have the whole acting thing down, and like your head turns. You're like just everything is there, right?
well, and I also, like I said, I danced professionally on stage for
Ah,
many years. So I think dancing more than anything has helped because you're using your body, you're using the entirety of you. And when you're using your body, the more you do it, the looser and the freer you get. So you don't have any hangups about anything really. Um, but
right.
I but I took acting lessons because I didn't want to be one of these directors who's like, here's the cool shot, you know what I'm saying, and do something in front of it. Like, I actually want to be able to talk to the actors in a language that they understand, I
Uh,
actually want to be able to get them to either understand what I want them to do, or I hate to use this word, but like, just to keep it short, fool them into the performance. I want to be able to, do those things, um, because it's film. It's not theater. It's film, and I just need them to do this little bit, just
mhm.
this little bit, because that's how long my shot's gonna be. So if I can consistently get them to be really awesome and really dope for this little bit a bunch of times, we're gonna be okay. So,
Yeah.
and I learned that from taking acting classes. I wasn't gonna learn that from just directing. I had to be on the other side and see what they're experiencing. And
Right.
like, actors they're putting that out there. They are putting
Oh
themselves out,
yeah. I mean,
and you can't just force them to do things. You gotta come at them from different ways, and you gotta understand where they're coming from too. In order for them to give a great performance, you gotta be with them.
okay.
So,
So I'm
I feel
putting a
like
suggestion in to
uh-huh.
your list of videos to create. Start to
Okay.
share some of the concepts that you apply in your acting or your entertaining to get us going and keep interest through things. And like you can even share like you just did that scene and kind of what you did and what your intention was and how you did it. And I think those of us like me that I still do intros and outros and I still I'm not comfortable in my skin whatsoever, although I know I'm doing a certain thing and providing a certain cadence for those that love to press the fast forward button kind of thing. But I would love to bring more kind of entertainment value to that introduction and it
Hmm.
be more me naturally and it not you know and it just flow easier. So just a suggestion for something for you to consider in your content.
You know what's funny? Like, I feel like as an actor, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can give the appearance of what is supposed to happen. I'm talking about me personally, not working with another actor. But I would never say like I'm a De Niro or a Marlon Brando, in the sense that like they embodied their characters. Like, that takes a lot.
Right.
And to do what I do in front of green screen, I mean, essentially directing myself and then add that on top of it, I don't know if I could do it. I really don't feel like I
Yeah.
could do it. So,
But you've also said to me there's a speed, not a, well, I don't know what's called speed of production. This is about producing more content at a different level. And you also mentioned to me, which you should talk about, the concept of a web series in a minute that
mhm,
you've said is one of the things that you want to achieve. But I mean, I can see like there's different degrees of the craft and time it would take to produce certain things. And like you can't put the whole kitchen sink in to do something and produce a
yeah.
volume of content and a body. But this brings me to raise the question. So who do you see as your viewer or subscriber that you're producing this content for? Like, can you share that for us? Like, I know there's
Yeah.
the creative inspiration. So who are you creating your stuff for?
Well, the first answer to that question would be me. Um, so I'm making essentially like the Twilight Zone, the Outer Limits, those old black and white sci-fi fantasy type shows.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted to see somebody that looked like me in those things.
Mm,
And, you never did, because it was back in the 50s. Like, how many actors of colors were in those kinds of TV programs or those kinds of movies? So I like to say that I'm kind of uh, like disrupting history a little bit by making
hmm.
this movie. Um, so I feel like I'm making it for fans of the genre, for sure,
Right.
and then for you know Puerto Ricans, Black people, whatever, like brown people who would have wanted to see themselves in those roles. And it's funny because I had this conversation with a friend of mine. He's like a 47-year-old Black man, and before I made this, I was like, I have this idea to make like The Outer Limits, but starring me, or like starring like brown people. But is anybody gonna be interested in that? And he was like, I'm interested in that. I want to see that. Like it didn't even cross my mind that he would be interested in that. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Um, so I feel like there's a good mix of people out there who want to watch something like this.
And then there are the people like me that are, blown away for other reasons that, I wouldn't have even associated that. So I think that's more of like a personal thing and
Hmm.
something you want to also share with people. Um, but, for me to look at the multi-talented, less that's bringing all that there, and I compare to other people in how to that are doing video and different things, that's why I say you're doing different things than a lot of what I'm used to seeing in a lot of the film. There's those filmmaker videos that are all about the high end gear and doing high end effects and all that kind of stuff. But I don't see a ton in the way of like acting, storytelling, creating the how to at a different level. So that's why I found you very intriguing and interesting, because I just found so much entertainment value and fun, and I learned. And I go, you know, they talk about if you can entertain or you can share knowledge, right? And you're doing huge things for audience appeal. And so that's why I'm saying it's probably very broad brushed, and I almost feel like you're taking your gifts in the acting area for granted, because it shows to people like me that wouldn't have even thought about that, because I landed on your channel and I go, oh, this is some cool green screen stuff, and look, I'm learning from a guy who can really like communicate on another level. So I just commending you for that and saying I really appreciate that.
Thank you, and I probably should talk about that,
Hmm.
because I could have um, gotten some actors. I have actor friends in Philly, not in North Carolina, not yet at least. Um, but I could have used other people in the roles. I could have brought people in, but this is, I wanted to be able to, if I wanted to go in the studio and film something at midnight on a whim, I wanted to be able to do that. And the only way I can do that is if I put myself in front of the screen. So the plan is, after I finish this one, the plan is to work in a more traditional, write a script and then cast the characters
Right.
um, for the movie, and then film them in front of the green screen, et cetera, et cetera. That would be for the second movie. I don't plan to continue to make movies like this all my life.
Right.
Um, but right now, like, I want to be able to, when inspiration hits, do it. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only time that I'm making this. Like, there are times where I don't want to do it at all, but I still do it, because if you just do things when inspiration hits, you're never going to get anything done.
Hmm.
So you have to, most of the time I'm making this when I really don't feel like
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, you're
But that's
learning,
that.
right? There's this whole side of YouTube, if you want to grow in terms of the numbers, subscribers and views, you need to produce content, and you need to do it with a certain frequency. You need to be able to maximize your SEO, or optimize your SEO so that you get exposure, and you need to do things in social. And you're already starting to work to engineer that, and you're now seeing like it's a whole big puzzle that you have to execute on. And I know I struggle myself um, on how to do a lot of that kind of stuff. So I think you're seeing that all those other dimensions as something like you didn't really have to focus on before, right?
Man, let me tell you, Gord, like, yeah, it's a trip, man. There are days where I'm like, you work on something so long that you have fleeting moments when you realize, holy moly, I'm being chased by a scorpion in a miniature car, by a toy scorpion in a miniature car, and it looks really damn cool. Like, after you've been working on it for so long, you don't think about it that way. But there are moments where like it hits me and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Let me keep doing this. It's so fun.
Hmm.
So yeah, you have to you just, you know, this is the new Les. The old Les might have given up working on this movie.
Yeah.
The new Les is gonna finish it
Yeah.
because he has to. I have to finish it.
Yeah. But I'm also
So
saying that in order to finish it and to share it and to get more people to see it, you have all these other facets of publishing, distribution, engagement
oh, I
on a
see what you're
level
saying.
that
Yeah.
wasn't part of what your focus was, just wanting to make a film. Now you're doing it to deliver it through YouTube, and so you're having to explore social media at another level, and these kinds of things, right? So do you want to speak a bit about that, and what do you feel about your journey in that, and where it's going, like because it's not just about putting the content pieces out alone, right?
You know what? I see what you're saying. So maybe this answers the question. Uh, so we know that YouTube is the number 2 search engine in the world. So we know that this is where the audience is. Okay.
Hmm.
There's no gatekeeper. All right. So for anyone who is an artist and says, oh, people are not seeing my art because XYZ, those people or whatever, like you don't have an excuse. Like this is where you go. And if you're making good work that people want to experience and watch, you have the audience. If you're not, then keep working until you do get the audience. But that is another reason why I also decided to go the YouTube route. It's because I wanted to get to the audience immediately. I didn't want
Hmm.
to have to submit it to a festival who then gets to pick or not pick my film, and they
And wait till it's finished to start to get feedback.
yeah, no, I didn't
Yeah.
want to, yeah, I
So
didn't want any of those things. So I wanted to be able to have instant access to an audience and also get feedback, because from that feedback is helping to take things in different directions that
yeah, so
normally you would not know to do that.
you actually have like a base storyline, and then as you start to release each video, I remember you shared with me that you're starting to get feedback and ideas, and like so you're willing to take this input from the community to help you shape the outcome of the film, and how twists and turns it may take, and that's just incredible. So does that relate to the web series concept you told me that you were wanting to produce? So how does web series fit into this?
So the web series was an afterthought because the original goal is to make a movie, like a 70-minute 1950 style B movie, sci-fi fantasy movie, right?
Mhm.
That was the end goal. And what I was going to do with YouTube is make behind the scene videos in order to grow an audience, so that once the movie was finished, it would have a built-in audience. Because a lot of times filmmakers will make a movie and wait till the movie is finished, and that's when they start marketing, and at that point, like, it is such an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So I thought, let me try this thing. Let me try this thing where, like, as I'm making the movie, I'm sharing about the movie in a visual way, not like blogs, not like photos, but actually like, hey, people, check out what I'm making. Part of my brain had to readjust to that because, like, a lot of times with movies, like, you want to keep it close to the chest. You don't want to give
Mhm.
away any of the secrets. You don't want people to. So so it felt a little weird to do that at first, but there are movies that I watch over and over again, and I want to see the behind the scenes over and over again, and I want to soak up as much information about it as possible, and it doesn't mess up the experience of actually watching the film. It actually enhances it. So I thought, maybe there'll be a couple people who feel like that about my film. So it's okay to put out the behind the scenes content, and this is what's happening. And like someday when they watch the movie, they'll be like, oh, I remember that from that video before, et cetera, et cetera. So I took that a step further. Because of the nature of the movie being made in front of a green screen, I can do something that a lot of movies don't do, which is shoot in chronological order. And a,
Oh, I
a couple
see.
weeks,
I never even thought about that as an order to things, because obviously different locations, everything. There's a whole budget management and approach to how you have to go about shooting and packaging and producing and editing it all together. Now you can
Yeah,
actually create that story step by step.
I'm in
That's
one
very
location.
powerful. You must
I'm in one
love that
location.
then.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. So a couple weeks back, I thought, wait a minute, wait a minute. I can actually. So I have filmed about 25 minutes of the movie so far. I thought
Wow.
to myself, I can actually start releasing the movie as a web series. So I will start releasing it in 3 to 4 minute chunks and do something a little different with it. Like the actual movie itself doesn't have voiceover. The web series is going to have voiceover and get you into the mind of the character more than the movie will. Like the movie is meant to be very visual and for the audience to come to a lot of the conclusions on their own. I'm going to give the audience a lot of information in the web series and
Oh, that's
really.
very cool. So is this a something, I have so many questions here. Is this something that you're going to like bring in as an education thing as well and monetize to like show people how they can get creative and all the elements and things? So I know doing it as a web series, but there's the whole behind the scenes flow of
Mhm,
things and what you can be teaching people that want to learn how to the craft of working with miniatures and that. And then when I saw you did a clip, I forget, is are they sitting out on a beach or somewhere? And that's where I learned your concept of one man band. Is that part of the
uh,
movie? Is that
yeah,
part of the movie?
yeah, they're out in the desert.
And how many different characters are you playing there?
Um, I believe that what you're talking about, there were about seven. But
Right. So
see,
there's imagine watching a scene and Les
uh-huh.
is actually acting six different roles visually, and he's put this all together, and everything's done with green screen. So just imagine what there is to learn just behind the scenes of like 5 seconds of that clip and the effort that must go into creating it. And I go like, holy cow! Like there's so much to unpack here for people, and I'd
Hmm.
say, you know, wow, like there are so many ways that you can like monetize this in a magical way for people that want to learn the techniques and what you're doing and then share it as a web series and you can help people develop skills and this is just your first video. I mean, I draw a parallel to the way I like to do my how-to tutorials. So
Hmm.
it's not just to me about learning the technical skill itself, but I want to show them and do something practical that they can use or take back and apply for their own brand. And then I sit here
Okay.
and I think like, you're showing a technique there in a one-man band thing that has like just infinite possibility for creativity, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So I just wanted to share that. That scene just blew my mind when I realized, oh my God, he's playing all of these roles too.
but see, I can do that for the reason I did that originally for the movie was so I could see it, so I could see the how the movie's flowing, and the you know what I was gonna do is I was gonna recast that whole scene with different actors. All right, which I'm still gonna do for the 70-minute movie. Now, for a web series on YouTube that's only 3 minutes, 4 minutes long, that works. I don't think people want to watch me for 70 minutes. That's a bit much. Like me being doubled and playing multiple characters. But for like something that's like 2, 3, 4 minutes long, that's fun. And that works on YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. So you're actually saying that a lot of your decisions for what you're doing for scenes and what unfolds is because you have the form of YouTube and shorter deliverable pieces, which,
Yeah, for the YouTube web series, like that's gonna be fun. That's gonna work. People are gonna be able to put up with that. For a 70-minute movie, not so much. I don't believe so. So unless, well, here's the thing, unless like you're Eddie Murphy in what's that movie? The Nutty Professor, where he plays like a bunch of
oh
roles.
yeah,
But then
that's
he's got all kinds of
based on
different
Jerry Lewis's classic.
he's got all kinds of like different costumes and things. I don't really have the crazy costumes or anything like that. but you can kind of get away with that in like 3 minute, 4 minute, little short episodes. But so again, as I make the movie, I'm going to release the web series, the episodes. But when the whole thing is finished, when I can see the whole thing in front of me, then I will cast actors in those roles so that it seems like a real movie. And really, the other thing that excites me about working this way is that, like, in movies, you don't get a chance to do this per se because it's so expensive to make a movie that most of the time you want to be set in what you're filming and the number of days that you have to film. But working this way, like, you get to just try different things, and if it doesn't work, you throw it away to the side and you try something else. I remember reading a book, a Woody Allen book, and he said one of the frustrating things about filmmaking is that he couldn't really experiment the way that you can in other art forms. Like, you have rehearsals in music, you have, artists can sketch, and you can sort of do that with movies, but like, he's talking more in terms of, like, I mean, he's taken, I believe he's made a couple movies where he just did not show any of it and started over. That's very, very, very rare in movies. You don't do that in movies. There's so much money that is spent that you just don't do that. So that's just the nature of filmmaking and of movies. But I feel like working this way, I can do that because it's just me. The only thing that's wasted is my time. And I don't consider that I'm wasting my time because I'm enjoying myself and I'm learning and I'm investing in myself, because anytime I see something that fails or that doesn't work, it means that I'm gaining something else in knowledge, like, or a new skill.
Yeah, the growth,
So,
the whole
yeah,
thing about
there's a
growth,
growth.
right? Which is
There's a
awesome.
growth there.
Yeah. So,
So,
I was curious, because you have all of this kind of experience, what is your perspective on people having to go to film school, going traditional route versus self-taught, and like having to be credentialed? And I ask that because I myself, for example, came from a different career background before I got excited about video and learning and teaching people, which happened, 3+ years ago. And then I took a deep dive and immersed myself. And I go, well, I can't look back and say I went to this school or that school, but I've learned from great people. And so I'm just curious, like, what do you say to people that want to explore a passion here? You know, do you draw a line? Do you see that it applies in some ways and not in others, depending on what you want to do? What's your perspective?
hmm. Well,
Because you told me you've also been self-taught on a lot of things too, right?
yes. That's just been my path in life. Like, I have the motivation to just go for it. Um, I don't know, Gord, because there are people that work very well inside of, the school system, and they need that structure. Um, and then there are people like me who they don't need the structure. I'm just gonna get stuff done. So I feel like I can say what works for me. I can't. I don't know if I can say, like, don't go to film school. It's a waste of time. For me personally, film school is a waste of money. Um, you know, it's not something that would be sustainable for me. But somebody who can afford it, it could be perfect for them. M. Night Shyamalan, film school. He went to NYU. You know, his parents could afford it. He could afford it. He made a feature film right out of film school in India. So for some people it works, and for others, like, I think we're lucky that in this day and age we have technology that puts the tools that we need in our hands to be able to compete with the big boys if we really want to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of your story and and your technique. And what I mean by technique, I'm talking about, I'm not talking about like anybody can put something together, edit something together, but like not everybody can edit with intention. Not everybody can edit to hide what you lack. There's a lot of things. Do you understand what I mean by that? Like, we now have the tools to be able, if you are a kick butt editor or director or whatever it may be, like, you now have the tools where if you have those skills, your work is going to look really, really good. You have access to tools that can help you enhance your creativity and your vision.
Right.
Now, it may not be like Hollywood $150 million budget special effects type of thing, but you can make something that looks really, really good. That if it's really good in terms of like the narrative, how it's put together, I don't think people will bat an eye and be like, "Oh, that's an amateur piece of work." In the same way that Hollywood existed and they shot on film, and that was very, very expensive just to do that.
Right.
So if you make a film, if you made your film on mini DV, not even HD, on mini DV back in the day, like your film looked a little bit shoddy. Even if
Right.
you made something really, 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 really good, it was still limiting because it still could not compete image quality
No.
wise.
But now
I
the
feel like,
gap's narrowed with what the
yeah,
tools are.
the gap is so small now that you can definitely compete. If you have the skills, you can definitely compete.
Well, that's very cool. And I was just going to ask you, because I know this was something we had talked about once in conversation. I say, you know, there are a lot of people that are YouTubers that, let's say, they're not necessarily doing green screen and fancier stuff, but
Hmm.
to many, tools like a Camtasia or a ScreenFlow are all they need. But they keep hearing, oh, because people that do film work use other higher level tools that may be like some professional level stuff, and then there's also things like Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro in there, and among the tools. And what do you say to people that get hung up and they go, oh, do I really have to learn a high-end editor? Does it Is it more about their purpose, or what their intention is and what they're trying to create, and can just great storytelling, editing skills compensate for most of that? What do you say to people that think they have to learn like a deep dive immersion in something that may be too challenging for some in order to have the skill to finish something they want to create?
I think that if what you want to make is a movie in the traditional sense where you have your shots and you edit between those shots and you don't have any crazy bells and whistles, then Camtasia, iMovie, simple editing programs, that's all you need, because that you're just telling a story through moving images. Now, if you're doing like, and a lot of even Hollywood, there's a lot of Hollywood that tries to overcompensate for a lack of story, a
Mm-hmm.
lack of depth, a lack of a lot of things. So they throw a lot of like eye candy and bells and whistles in the film, in the edit, and you see all these graphics and you see all these things that at the end of the day probably have nothing to do with the movie itself, with what the movie is. Um, but if you have a story to tell, all you need is a camera. And these days it can just be this thing right here, your phone. It
Mm-hmm.
shoots 4K. A lot of them now shoot 4K and it looks pretty good. And some kind of simple editing system, and you're off to the races. You are, I mean, this this right here is better than what Orson Welles had to shoot Citizen Kane. Seriously, the image quality on this is better.
Yeah, yeah,
Better than what Alfred Hitchcock had. Look how small it is.
yeah.
How small this thing is compared to like those cameras. Like the screen is not big enough for me to show you how big the cameras were that Orson Welles and
And
Alfred
back
Hitchcock.
then, you probably needed a crew to move the camera.
Oh my God, you needed so many people, and now you just yourself and your actors, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the
That's all you
technology has so advanced, whether it's editing software or you name it, because even something like Camtasia, you have like there's 20 kinds of transitions you can do, all kinds of animation effects built in. I mean, and it's not that sophisticated to use. Similarly, something like ScreenFlow, and then in case of Premiere Pro and Final Cut, there's all kinds of third-party stuff. Like it's crazy the volume of options that you have, and it's just it's available for anyone as long as you want to invest a little more time to get the fancier stuff
Mhm.
um, done. So the game, like you're saying, is very very much equalized, but it's so easy to get caught up in I call bells and whistles and eye candy that I can take away from I think there's the risk sometimes of getting caught up in eye candy because pardon me, I know I loved to add even in Camtasia little bells and whistle things that I could there just because I enjoy it, but you got to be careful about overuse. It's so easy to add all kinds of things, right?
You know what's interesting to me? I feel like back in the day when it was like VHS or mini DV, um, to a beginning filmmaker, like it would be a drag to shoot, like say something like a wedding. Like it wasn't a wedding was not something that a videographer would necessarily be proud to film.
Mm.
Nowadays, with the kind of equipment you have drones, you have camera sliders, you have like small uh small devices that can keep your camera steady and you can just follow along the action. Like now, because of those tools, there are tons of filmmakers who they absolutely love shooting weddings
Mhm.
because they can now make this great cinematic narrative that before it just would have just looked like, oh, it's just a wedding. But now people, I have friends who they just dedicate themselves to shooting weddings and they make them epic movies. They are making the movies, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like the technology and the tools right now allow them to do that.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, it's very exciting time to be a creator, and so what's next with your plan to unfold your channel as you grow and what like what are you about to execute on going forward now?
um So the thing that I'm hoping to do in the next few weeks is to start releasing the movie as a web series, as episodes. And the other thing I'm hoping to do is to work on my workflow, to figure out my workflow in a way that I can release more videos per week. And I'm starting to figure out how to do that.
Hmm.
It's all about scheduling and just a different way of thinking. The way I was making videos before would be, I have an idea, let me film it, let me edit it, and then upload it. And the way I'm thinking now is, let me think of 10, 15 ideas, let me map them out, and let me see if in one day I can film 5 to 6 of those videos. And then let me see if then in the next 2 days I can edit those 6 videos. And now I have them lined up back to back. I can schedule the release of the videos,
Yeah.
and I think that would be a more sustainable way of working. Like it's not gonna. I felt a bit overwhelmed before, like making a video a week, and I'm starting to figure out why I felt overwhelmed and that I was doing it wrong. And so that is, even though that's not technically like um, a goal per se. I mean, it is a goal. I mean, it's
What's so interesting about this is like if you think about the way a traditional film might be done, where you have all the set stuff to deal with. I
Hmm.
mean, in a way, you're figuring out how to budget your time and apply it to get that kind of efficiency. But it's now, it's you yourself. You're the bottleneck on everything. It's like
Yeah.
it's a little bit different, and
No,
that's what I find about by being a YouTuber is that I'm the bottleneck on everything. Like whether I got to do my SEO work, or do this stuff to promote on social media and find ways to do things like these lives and bundle it all together. You got to wear some additional hats now in this medium to deliver, right?
yeah, and you know what? It's actually good because like it's teaching me how to schedule other things in my life in smarter ways. Because you just have to, uh, if you wanna have the consistency, and in YouTube, consistency is the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like I like Game of Thrones, and I hate that I have to wait a week, week after week. There have been seasons where I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna watch it. I'm just not gonna watch it till the whole season happens, and then I'm just gonna binge watch them. It's what we're used to, and I feel like it's always been like that. It has always been like that. If we had the choice to watch content the way we watch it now, we would have done it 50, 60, 70 years ago. If you
Yeah.
enjoy something, you want more of it.
And that's kind of the way the algorithm feeds stuff to people now. I find things shift a lot now in my when I'm if I go to watch something new, they're going to quickly, feed me all kinds of stuff that was similar to that or from the same sources, and
Hmm.
I may binge watch a bit right then and there. So they're trying to like test the water to max out on your consumption of time in viewing. So it's almost like that is the way we like to consume now, and we
You know
we,
what,
we
Gord?
expect everything like this.
Uh-huh. I thought I was a weirdo because I kind of don't watch too many shows on Netflix or Amazon Prime or even HBO Now. We have HBO Now. My wife watches all that stuff. I don't watch any of it. I binge watch on YouTube. And I thought I was a weirdo for that because I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, and I really enjoy it. That's where I pretty much watch all my content is on YouTube.
Hmm.
And I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday who was like, "Yeah, all the stuff I watch is on YouTube," and I was like, "Me too. That's awesome." He's like, "Yeah, I get to see things that I normally would not get to see on Netflix or network TV or
Oh,
anything like that."
absolutely.
I'm like, "Me too.
Yep.
That is why I watch it." So I think, this is just the beginning.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
just the beginning for YouTube. Like people are going to continue to find that like there is so much content there. I fear for Netflix. Well, Netflix and those guys, those big boys, they're going to be fine. But like, YouTube can definitely give them a run for their money, especially if they continue to be a free platform for people.
Yeah, I
Like,
think I think it's so powerful, and I think the fact that it's truly everything on demand, anything you wish to explore, so
mhm.
you're not as constrained by traditional television or a Netflix catalog, or an HBO what they carry. So you can literally key something in and explore, and that's what's really cool. That's part of it, right? You don't know what you're going to find.
Listen, you could save yourself $35 a month. What's Netflix, like $10 a month. HBO now is 15 a month. Amazon Prime is 100 a year, 110 a year. So that breaks down to about $10 a month.
Mhm.
You could save yourself that $35 a month and get all your content from YouTube
Mhm.
and not feel like you're missing out because there's something for everybody on
Yeah,
YouTube
I
and
agree.
more and more. I mean, there's just things that those kinds of platforms and TV networks are not going to be interested in having in their channels or
Right.
in their
So this makes you feel even better about the idea that, the kind of content that you're producing, you said like, uh, there aren't many filmmakers trying to do what you're trying to do specifically in the niche that you're kind of starting to build for yourself, right? So that's kind of cool. Sometimes it's daunting because you want to see competition and different things like that to
Hmm.
validate that what you're doing is finding an audience, but at the same time, you know, you need to do what your passion is, and you got to give it a go. And so I'm really excited to see how this unfolds for you and publishing your web series. As by web series, you mean you're releasing it out on YouTube, or are you going to be packaging it up another way?
I'm gonna start by releasing it on YouTube, and then the very last episode, I'm gonna make people pay for that. Once they're hooked. No, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So when you say you sit down to go plan your next batch of videos, so you've already got 25 minutes done. Like I think like when I look at the kind of stuff that you're producing, how you have to have like a ton produced well in advance to keep to start to do a faster paced schedule, unless you're now starting to mix up content to do a variety of things along the way of taking us on that journey of that filmmaking, right? It's not just going to be about the content itself, it's going to be about behind the scenes stuff and all kinds of things, right? Is that what
Yes.
I'm just guessing, like that's what I see.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm gonna continue to do behind the scenes for sure. And I'm even gonna start doing some videos that I'm actually a little bit afraid of making, which are like the opinion videos. Like for some reason I felt kind of weird like getting in front of a camera and being like, hey, I'm making this movie because I'm sort of like rewriting history. I'm putting a brown person in something that's traditionally, they're not traditionally in. And
Mm,
that is was a little bit uncomfortable for me to
mm.
talk about. I don't know why, but like now, like I feel that like there are things like that that I
So
want
there
to
are
talk
things
about
like
on my
film history kind of
yes.
stuff that you're trying to show, and what the potential is and what people can do now with their independence, which is very
Even
powerful.
even talking about, teaching kids filmmaking back in the day in their inner cities, even talking about, listen, it's fine for them to tell their stories, because people should know, but like give them the choice to make these silly movies where they get to play these outrageous characters. Like even something like that, it like I didn't think of making a video about that, and I'm going to make a video about that, or I'm going to talk to those young 14, 15-year-old kids who are interested in film, but I feel like a lot of times what they're being put in front of them is like, hey, tell your story about being poor and living in the inner city. Like maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they don't want to do that. So give them another option, give them another choice to make something else. So
Hmm.
I'm going to make a video about that. And things, similar to that, like things that I think about, um, that could be interesting. That's not
Yeah.
necessarily like a behind the scenes
So
videos
this will
of.
come out more in things like your playlist strategy and carving out your niche and really determining how you're going to bundle it together to serve the community, the audience you're building. And that's what's so cool about YouTube, is that you have the opportunity to experiment. And experiment is important, I think, on a number of levels. And one of which is to keep you inspired as a creator. Because personally, as an example, like my channel, although I'm in a niche about creating video, I do stuff like Camtasia video editing, YouTube social video, and video marketing, and and YouTube's in there, but that's because I want to cover all of those things. It's about video creating, okay?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and it's hard to service and balance that, but I get to be inspired to say, okay, now I'm going to do something about Facebook video. I'll show people how to make profile videos. Next, I'll
Mm,
show people how to do some cool things with cover videos for Facebook and educate them on some techniques or approaches there and factor in, and you know and then next I can go, okay, now I'm going to go show something specific about editing. So the fun thing is the creativity and scope of latitude in what I'm doing is quite significant, but it's another thing to go, oh my God, you think about, am I serving people at different levels and what's going on, right? And
Hmm.
so it's quite interesting to see how that all unfolds as you try experiments and to see if people still are with you. I noticed we had Michael Daniels say that he's into YouTube Red since he binge watches YouTube. Do you use a YouTube Red?
Not yet. I haven't explored it. Do
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. No, I don't either. But Go Pappy Go, welcome there, and he says he does it too. So yeah, I think a lot of people do. I noticed that I'm getting more people watching some of my content from. I'm seeing Red starting to pop up there. So I don't know how they cross over and how that fits together. But it's something to explore as a consumer. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
Gord, let me ask you a question. Are there videos that you make that you're just like, nobody's really going to be interested in this video, and
Okay, the
then
one number one thing he says is no commercials. So they cut out all the ads in their YouTube Red, right? So then
there you
binge
go.
watch, you save a lot of time, I bet.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. So sorry, you were
yeah.
going to say, are there videos that I?
So are there videos that you are super excited about and you put them out and you think you're going to get a ton of views? You put it out there and it's crickets. And then there are videos that you're just like, oh, this video is okay. And you put it out there and all of a
Okay, so
sudden
this is
it's
a great
like,
question. So I find there are certain videos I go, this is just awesome. It's going to be a jewel in my evergreen chest of videos that I'm making. And I'm right for a lot of them. But if it's a Camtasia video, it takes time to build because of the size of the audience. But I
mhm,
feel pretty good about it. But a few of them are like surprisingly runaways that do
mhm.
better than other ones. And then I may have had one that I thought, this is my most ultimate on this topic area, and it only gets received mediocre. And I go, I can't, I just don't get it. Like people go watch that one. You know what I mean? And that's why I think if we watch our videos over and look at the analytics and see where people drop off in their
Mhm.
viewership, we're probably going to learn things specifically about ourselves. And by the way, Michael is the gentleman, Les, I told you about, that has the game show that has like 6, 8 people going and all kinds of scenes and things. And I was showing you OBS, and I said he's the one that taught me this stuff. He takes the whole production thing to like another level. So I mean, he's very cool. You got to check out some of his stuff. So it's quite amazing, and he does shows twice a week. Like, I mean,
But
he's a real
but
producer.
does the general audience know that there are people that have game shows on YouTube? That's what I mean. There is everything on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything's on YouTube. So
yeah,
that's awesome, Michael.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna
And
check
he's
it
been
out.
doing it for quite a while. I think he's well over. Are you over 100 shows, Michael? I think you are on one of the shows. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So it's just and they have so much fun and it's like it consumes you just like as if it was a television production, and you sit there and you think about the kind of control room that would have had to have been functioning to do
Hmm.
that, and he does it with Zoom. Okay, has the source for all the feeds, and so you have some restrictions, but he's mastered it and managed it. Yes, he's done over 100 shows.
But hold on, what have we been talking about here? We've been talking about how technology has gotten you closer to the big boys. You just said it yourself. It's like a control room. It's like that whole team of people and a TV network working in a control room, and he's
Yeah,
probably doing it by himself.
he does. He has 4 screens. He juggles so many things, plus entertains the people. And he's just loving it all the time. So that's why I really, tell people go check out Michael. And, Les will check out your channel for sure, Michael. He just has to click on the chat, and the chat after you'll be able to go, and he can post your channel there, Michael. You just look up Michael Daniels and you'll see he has a variety of things in there. And he's also like an expert in the Google. He, yeah, Michael, I forget. He's like a tech expert in the Google community, serving people. So he does a lot of cool things and brings on a lot of cool guests. That's where I do some live Camtasia tutorials, by the way, which is like the only place I've kind of done the live thing. So I've been sort of piloting that stuff there, and so far so good. I'm going to do more of those. So anyways, Les, this has been a thrill for me to do, and I look forward to it. And I'm looking forward to doing some of the collab ideas that we talked about, and you've even drafted a scene for us, which
Yeah.
we had contemplated about using, but it doesn't well fit a live video, but a collab, a proper pre-recorded one,
Hmm.
we'll be able to bring that in. So here it goes. Michael says, I remember a TV with 3 channels as a kid. He'd watch game shows and want to play along. Yeah, and he has the audience participates because it's all about words and guessing and solving things. So
How many
it's very cool.
people? How many people tune in, Michael?
He would know there's variety. He's actually built a membership too around it, and he teaches people other things. So he is an interesting combination concept. He's I'm pretty sure he heard you.
Okay.
Okay, maybe he stepped away.
I'm just gonna put it up there just in case.
Yeah, there he goes. 13 to 30
Wow.
depends on what's going on. But it's cool because they're in a race against each other as people
Mhm.
watching to get the answer. And they may get the answers to things before the people on the show even get them. Do you see what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like a game where you do clues and you try to solve the word. And it's very cool. But, this is, and I've seen other people show me things on Twitch, and it's with games. And so, yeah, like you're saying, the creativity, what you can do to produce and if you put in the effort and the energy and want to be a creator, it's so vast. And so, and so, so Les, where is the best place? YouTube, and your channel, you already posted in the chat for people. And yeah, just there you go. You're going to be a visitor on Michael's show. That'll be cool.
Every time I put in a
Comment.
web web address on the comments, it says, "Oops, remove any web addresses and try again." I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to put my YouTube channel there, but yeah, you can just, if you go to YouTube, search Les El Blatino, and it's Latino but with a B in front of it,
Yeah.
and L like EL, and you should be. It's right there on the screen. You should
Yeah.
be able to find me.
So in closing, Les, can you tell us the story behind the little graphic we have feeding there with you dressed up as a samurai type thing? Yeah. I love the way you exit with you stab into the subscribe button.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the service of creativity. Um, Everybody.
There is
One
no
thing.
subscribe like yours. There's just
Well,
nothing like that compares.
really, you haven't seen anything like that?
No, well, I mean, it's total entertainment to just tell me to subscribe, and I was just too cool, not a standard like click here or do this or that. No, I
Right,
haven't.
right,
I'm
right.
being honest. Yours stands out. Let's put it that way.
Well, cool. Thank you. And as I continue to learn about YouTube, uh, it just feeds me more ideas to play around with those kinds of things. Because like now I know that you have to do the bell if people want to get your videos, for the notifications. So I'm gonna come up with a few of these little fun little subscribe, hit the bell type
That's
things.
very
But
cool.
you know,
I'm gonna bug you for some ideas.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee and martial arts.
Yeah,
So I basically have decided that I'm gonna use martial arts for these like subscribe little
yeah,
video things. So that'll be
absolutely.
a nice little
You
theme
get
to
to
continue.
creatively express. Anyways,
Yeah.
thanks again, Les, and I look forward to doing some cool things with you and us seeing what unfolds on your channel and how you bring your magic out to everybody. And thanks again for being a guest, and thank you everybody who participated in chat or watches on the replay.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
until next time, thank you very much and
And Gord,
goodbye. Yeah.
I can't wait for us to do, the thing that we're working on
Yeah,
that we
we
want to
are.
show
We are.
here.
We got to do
We're
it.
gonna we're gonna share. We're gonna share it. It's gonna be a trip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we can now do a little more with it now because it's going to be dedicated to a nice pre-recorded video. So I look
There
forward
you
to it
go.
because it'll be the cover to a lesson, which will be cool. So we're going to talk about that shortly.
And
Okay.
also
Yeah.
a thing that we had talked about before, which is like making making a movie with people in different parts of the world.
Hmm.
So if you have a green screen and you're in Australia and I have a green screen and I'm over here in the US, we can make a film together. We can actually be in the
Okay,
same
Les.
scene together.
Here's the challenge for you. Find out a Guinness Book of Records concept here, and let's make it happen. YouTube is big enough to make that
Wow.
happen. So if you
Wow.
can let your creativity go there,
Okay.
I bet you can create something.
Okay. I gotta put that thinking hat on.
There you go.
Well, Gord,
Awesome.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
It was a
And
pleasure.
thank everybody. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you got something out of this. And Gord, let's do this again, man.
We will. Let's
All right.
let's let's both do some cool creative stuff so we have more to share and talk about, and I look forward to that. And thank you,
All right.
everybody. Take care, and I'd say good night because that's what it is at this hour here.
Good night.
Okay.